Welcome to the Smoking Word. Welcome to the Smoking Word.
Yeah, what up, everybody? The Smoking Word podcast is back. Like always, shout out to everybody who's been tapping in. Big shout out to everybody who's been hitting me up. I'm glad they liked the last couple of episodes we did, and we're keeping everything Northeast, and even more than Northeast. We're gonna even narrow it a little closer to the Massachusetts, North, New York, West, because there's that something about the water we've been talking about lately in that area that always had a connection with heavy music and just New York hardcore, thrash, and everything. And listen, enough said. We got one of East Coast and one of America's finest skin mans. I used to be called a good skin man, but for other reasons. Right now, from Category 7 and we're gonna give you 1,000 other bands, but for right now, it's Category 7, right? Only, right?
And Shadows Fall.
And Shadows Fall, of course, that's doing the thing. We're going to get into that. Jason BITTNER, everybody. And the return of my brother, Mike Valeni, holding me down. Holding me. I had Mike come back. We actually talked about this before. It was like, we wanted to make sure we wanted to lead up to the Extreme Music Awards show, which everybody's amped about. And we wanted to showcase a lot of the bands and just, talk about what's coming up and everything. And I'm glad you on, because I actually wanted to get you on a while ago. And then when Mike brought it up, he goes, let's get Jason to jump on. I was like, absolutely, because I've been trying to do it for a minute.
Yeah.
But it's been a while. How you been?
It has been. I've been good. I was kind of going back to be honest with you, I was going back in the mental Rolodex today about how many bands have I played in with you in Madball. And I'm like, Crisis, Stigmata, Shadows Fall, obviously. I don't think Burning Human ever did anything with Madball. No. At least 3 bands. So
no, for sure. No, crazy. No, absolutely. And that was the great thing about, that was the other cool thing about you. Like certain players that come out of our scene in our areas, when they get in a next level type bands, it's kind of like, yo, shit. Because I remember the minute you started playing, the Shadows Fall started taking off, it's always like, yo, Stigmata. That's Stigmata there. But you know what I mean? And it carries on. And then when, even now, you're doing Category 7, who else you played for? You go down the line, Shadows Fall, everybody, it carries all that, which is amazing,
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny on that too, because as much as all the bands that I've played in, the things that I've done, and the things that I'm still pinching myself over, deep down, I'm still the drummer from Stigmata. That's kind of like when I'm home. That's still like kind of how I feel, even though I'm the dude from Shadows Fall, but I'm still the drummer from Stigmata, even though we don't really exist anymore. But that's where it all started. If I didn't play in that band, I wouldn't have made any of the connections with the people that I made the connections with to further doing this for 25 plus years.
Absolutely. And that's exactly, those were the trench days. I always say it when I talk about Albany, because especially for us back then, we were in Albany every other day, and we were always with, playing with you guys, I always talk about Wartime Manor. We were always in the area with somebody, because I was like, there was always people there. We had some of our greatest shows were in Albany, from the QE2 to Bogies. I always talk about one of our greatest Madball shows at Bogies. The Yankees won the World Series that day. I don't remember which one, but I was like, man, we just killed it. The Yankees won. Fuck. All I need to do is get laid, but I don't think that happened. But Mikey, how Jason?
Oh shit, we were friends and rivalries and whatever for since 1986 or 87.
Yeah, we
played together way back in the day, and we over the years we just grew to know each other. And I remember getting that phone call from Bittner going, yo, I'm thinking about joining Stigmata. What do you think? I'm like, fuck yeah. I go, that's the move right there, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, we've always been, we always been good with each other since at least 1990, you know?
Yeah, crazy. At least like then, and you think about that now when we think about those, you know, playing all that era. Yeah, the early '90s. Yo, that's crazy long time ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, we're getting started, and we consider wow, the older people were from before that. Yo, we look back now. That's I forget. I'm like, God damn, like
Right.
ridiculous. Like you just think like, and one of the last times I saw you was not super long ago, but you were in Florida. I didn't get to talk to you, but I watched you and then I had to leave. You might have been with Overkill, but you played Florida, Fort Lauderdale. And I don't know if it was maybe one of Max's bands but playing somebody in the last couple of years. Cause I was like, oh shit. But it was good to see you playing constantly and all that shit. And what's going on now with the new band? I mean, there's a lot, it's already I don't want to say it's like new because I heard so much about it. There's a lot of it.
Yeah.
So it's your most recent shit.
It's fresh. It's fresh in people's. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's still fresh in people's heads because yes, it is a new band. The record came out in July. For those who don't know, I have a new band. It's called Category 7. It's me, Mike Orlando on guitar, Phil Demmel on guitar, John Bush on vocals, Jack Gibson from Exodus on bass. So it's like it's not meant to be a super group. It's just a bunch of dudes who have been in the scene for a long time and wanted to write some music together.
Yeah.
So it started as just like an itch, and Phil was filling in with us and Overkill at the time. So we started talking, and then we were talking to Mike, and then things just kind of progressed. In the meantime, Shadows Fall had gotten back together.
Yeah.
I mean, this was all while I was still playing in Overkill. In the meantime, Shadows Fall got back together. We had a reunion show that we were going to do a year prior, but then it got bagged because of COVID. So we finally got back together, did the reunion show, thought it was just going to be a show.
I saw it, yeah.
And then it escalated. We got a couple festival offers, and then we got the Lamb of God boat and stuff. And then once we started playing together again, we're like, wow, anybody got any ideas? And we're like, yeah, you know, so, you know, the next thing you know, we got 6.5 songs written. So we have one of those songs coming out this Friday.
That's dope. And I know you're doing both. And I know since there's different players in different bands with the other band, with the Category 7 stuff, are you planning to hit the road soonish with that or anytime, or just doing spot shit at all?
March is the tour right now. That's the planned tour is in March of next year. Sadly, because of what you just said, everybody is spaced out in all these other bands.
Yeah.
So you just can't go, oh, the record's coming out in July. All right, we're going on the road. July's the second week after the record. Nope.
Yeah.
8 months later, which we all know in this business is it's kind of shitty, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, because what happened was we were supposed to go out in November, and our management and everybody in the band too, we realized that we want to make this a working band, but we know that there's times where maybe Phil's not going to be able to make it. Maybe Jack's not going to be able to make it, because Phil being in Kerry King's band now, and with Jack being a full member in Exodus, like that's the bread and butter gig. We can't expect them just to be like, well, hey, we're playing 14 shows. Let's get in the van and do this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, but there's certain guys that, you know we can't replace, but we're going to do whatever we have to do to be on the road and to play this music for people. So it was the idea that we wanted to at least have the first tour be everybody in the band.
Yeah.
Like that's the way we wanted to present it to people. Not like the first time out, hey, here they are with a fill-in guitar player already.
I know what you mean. Yeah, totally.
So that's why it's not till March, because it was going to be November. It was going to be November of this year, and then Kerry King booked one festival, which not only threw a wrench in the works for us, but threw a major wrench in the works for Death Angel, because that's why they ended up losing that Watts tour and Armored Saint taking the spot instead, which then even if Phil was available, John wouldn't have been available, because now he would have been on this armor.
Let me say this. How amazing is that you just every fucking band you just named that they might be on the road with, you just named every, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's we're in a very sweet spot, because these same bands 10 years ago, you know what it was.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We're playing spots with a light bulb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, the name of the game. But that's what I love. I watch Obituary now, killing it. I watch, certain, guys that always trenched it. But like now getting, same thing. Like I noticed that with, obviously the 2-year vacation helped kickstart a lot of shit. Yeah. Because I noticed it when people were in love with Limp Bizkit. Now, this is what I bring this up. Limp Bizkit took us on tour. I give them mad props for that and all that. Mad love. But I remember when there was a time you couldn't even say that name. Now they go out and they murder it. Everybody's like, I love Limp. You couldn't do that. I was like, but what I'm saying, it's a whole, like the vibe, our attitude, the attitude is different than from when we came up, but that vibe, they're starting to catch on to that older vibe. Like they like it. They starting to see it. I'm seeing a lot of the throwback. You see a lot of the metal look, they're denim and leather.
Yeah.
They're bringing the OG, even the new bands are bringing back the classic. They're trying to bring back the classic death metal feels and all this kind of. But man, Armored Saint, all those bands, wow, look at they're on tour, everybody just names, Like, and let me ask you this for you two guys I was thinking of something, because it's our era. Ain't it crazy? Because we all got to do music and take it, if it's with the music or even outside the music, to another level. For me, coming up, a big part, obviously you had your hardcore punk shows that had its spot. But for us in the metal scene, there was only the battle of the bands. And then if you were lucky, we're getting an opening spot with the national act coming through. Was it the same up there? Because
Mike, why I'm smiling my face off right now.
That's what I'm saying, right? How ain't it crazy that?
We have a great Battle of the Band story that we've told about a trillion fucking times.
I never even heard, but this is amazing. But this is tell me, but that's what I'm saying. People don't listen. That don't exist no more. You know that, right?
Right, but you're right though. There were no outlets for. I mean, there were none. Like, you're right. Battle bands at the high school or whatever.
Exactly.
It was.
In our neighborhood. So this is where I got the connection where obviously punk and hardcore needed metal and vice versa.
Yeah.
Metal has a first grade and then Yale. There's no middle. In hardcore punk, you got first, second, third, high school. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what happened with metal guys, when you graduate from the Battle of the Bands, if you're not the one lucky band from your area that gets the national act, where you say, my hardcore boys, they said we could jump on, right? And then you jump on, and then you got the mix. That's how all the sludge metal, dark metal, all these other dark metal names, I remember them being like guys that needed somewhere to play. They loved it all, but they were like, we can't, Metallica's not taking us. CBGBs will book us, and they're playing with it, it'll be some artsy night, but that's, where you got the mix. But I noticed that I was like, there's no grade system in the metal scene, and I'm like, but the Battle of the Bands, that's first grade in metal, right? For us, it was. And
Rule
it was
number 101. Metal 101.
Yeah. crazy. But but it's insane how you're going from playing a church, you know what I mean, and you get that one bar gig. You know how it works, and you're like, yo, we get one out of town gig, and then it gets to a point like, you don't even want to travel. You're like, I'm sick now. You know how it is. It gets to a point sometimes you don't even want to travel because you're so tired of traveling. You're like, oh, Germany again.
Yeah.
It's
But and back then we were lucky if we even had a show, and then you feel terrible that when you're on tour and then you're complaining about it.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, this is what I want to do my whole entire life. But that's sadly the double-edged sword, because as well as I do, those first few tours or something, those are the memorable ones, and everything else. I mean, yeah, you do memorable tours and stuff, but when you're out there and you're just fucking grinding 9-10 months out of the year, because that's what we had to do in order to gain any momentum. You couldn't leave the road because there was always someone waiting. Oh, the spot opened up.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened with Shadows Fall. The moment that we took one iota of rest between
it passed,
3 straight records, and we took one summer where we're like, let's just not tour this summer. And then we're like, all right. And then the next record, it seemed like some of our contemporaries just went like that. And we're like, oh my God. But it's like, it's either what happens is you need to take either a break or someone goes south, whether it's, drug abuse or has a drinking problem or whatever, or there's an attitude and someone quits the band. That's always what normally happens. So in retrospect, I'm glad that we did take that time off, because if we didn't, we would have just, something would have imploded eventually.
And then how did this kind of comeback happen? It was mainly because you had that one show planned, right? Did that re-spark the whole shit, right?
Yeah, we had talked about the one thing with Shadows Falls, when we went on hiatus, it was never because we didn't like each other and we didn't want to be friends anymore. We had no problem. Our personal relationships were fine. The problem was.
Uh-oh.
The problem was.
Problem was.
Go ahead. We got you. You saying the problem was?
The problem was we lost connection. Personally, we were fine. The problem was financially, we weren't coming home and profiting anymore. So and then as soon as Paul had his kid and he started staying home on certain tours, he started staying home, be with his baby, which we understand.
Yeah.
And then Brian got married, moved to St. Louis. His wife got pregnant. And at the moment that 2012, we laid dormant, but I was on tour with Anthrax all summer, filling in for Charlie. And all through that tour, Rob just kept saying to me, I'm quitting the band. Can John do this gig? And I'm just thinking, oh, Rob's just pissed off. He's not going to leave. And he's like, could John do this gig? I'm like, yeah, of course you can do this gig. And he's like, because I'm quitting. And then 6 months later, John's in Anthrax. So as soon as that happened, that was really the trajectory of all right, we're going to put this to bed for now. And then eventually it'll rear its head again when it's time for it to do so. But at 2014, we knew that we're done right now. This is the nail in the coffin. With John gone, we're going to go away. So we were always still friends though, and always still in contact with each other.
Yeah.
John and I did the Mega Cruise together a number of years ago. Him and Anthrax, me and Overkill. We did a South American tour together this past year. So we all were still in contact with each other, but just we weren't playing.
Yeah.
So eventually around, like I said, in 2019, we had started the talks of, all right, we're going to get back together. We had the date solidified for December, whatever, 2020. And obviously, when they shut the world down, they saved the date again for us in 2021. So.
Oh, there you go. Because I remember for the world out there, it was out now. I was getting the 411 because I was with Zeus, And so I used to get the word of like, so who's there? I think I got pictures maybe of you guys jamming. He was like, oh, they're in the studio. And I was like, oh shit, all right, good. And I was like, what's the deal? And they were like, oh, I don't know. I go, basically at the time, it was just like, yo, they just want to write some dope shit and, you know, put it up, get some dope songs together and then see what happens, you know, put it out. And I was like, yeah, you ain't gonna do that and not play it. You know, you're gonna get in there. I was like, so, but that was a little bit ago. So it was good to see the whole shit come out. And what I was gonna say, what is it with the North, with Albany, upstate, Western Mass? What is it about that area that makes it so music heavy? Like music in general, for like, look, in our world, it's a typical pit stop. You know, you hear, you know, Albany, Western Mass, but it's big because in the metal, hardcore world, you know, we have a lot going on. And sure, some hip hop goes by Albany. I always knew that from back in the day.
Yep.
Why heavy music lives there?
Because there ain't shit to do up here.
You know, because heavy music specifically, the thrash, when it was hardcore, it was dirty hardcore thrash, or the punk dirty, always like the all out wars, you know,
Well, I'll tell you, for me personally, I mean, if it wasn't music, I mean, I know it's a cliche thing to say. If it weren't for music, I'd be dead or in jail.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a problem kid. I was an asshole growing up. Like literally, I was, music curbed me and actually taught me a lot of respect just from seeing other bands and how they're going about and everything. And it kind of made me wake up a little bit and seeing that there's other people with similar tendencies and problems and everything like that. And playing the guitar is better than, you know, doing something stupid.
Let me ask you, both you guys, Jason, you first show, did you come up, not even so much specific first show, like, all right, early metal shows, were you going to see the big ones? Were you going to see arena shows early on?
I mean, I can take you back to my first shows. I mean, literally my first shows were going to Saratoga Performing Arts Center in the 70s with my parents. I mean, I saw the Doobie Brothers like 74. Okay. Like I was 3-4 years old. Like it was funny because I'm friends with Ed Toth, who's been the drummer in the Doobie Brothers for like the last 20 years.
Bad motherfucker right there.
And they just played in Saratoga. We're backstage. I'm like, I got a fucking fire. My mother had a firecracker land right next to her when she was holding me on her lap here 50 fucking years ago up in those rafters, and he's just laughing his ass off. So that was my first experience with music. My first early metal shows, the first one that I was allowed to go to by myself and my friends was Maiden on Peace of Mind tour.
Wow, and that's a class. And where did you go? Where was the spot for you guys up there?
Glens Falls Civic Center. There were two places really in the 80s, like for us.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Well, the bigger places, Glens Falls and RPI, but then we had the Palace Theater, and we had this place called the Colony Coliseum for a while too. That had that like, ironically, we had probably one of the most amazing weekends for metal. It was Memorial Day weekend, 1987. On Thursday night at the Colony Coliseum, because I went to both shows. And I was just telling Ellison about this when we were in South America together. Because I'm like, if you fucking told me back in 1987 that I'd be touring with you and you'd be filling in this band that I went to go see open for you, like, you know, when I was a 17-year-old kid, but it was Megadeth on Peace Cells and Overkill on the Taking Over tour.
Crazy.
The next night at the Palace Theater, which is right down the street from where we'll be doing the Extreme Music Awards, was Anthrax on Among the Living tour with Metal Church opening.
Crazy.
So,
like exactly, like it's good that it's also good to know that that the double booking shit, you know, on the same weekend ain't a new thing. Like we know it's always been, but back then it was the shit. I remember it would be like that.
Both shows were jam packed too.
I remember the city would be like that. I would see the flyers, the old city shows at the Ritz Studio. Yep. This. You're like, how could you go? Also, shows were $5, $8, $12, you know. But it was a lot. But no, it was crazy because that's what I was wondering. Because I didn't come up going up. My first arena show was I saw Pantera and Life of Agony with Ozzy. It was because I was on Roadrunner. So I never been to an arena for a show till I was older. My first thing was hardcore shit. But I loved metal, but I never saw it live. My boys all went to the Slayer at MSG, the big one, the famous one, And I was like, fuck that, I ain't going to that shit. Like, I was talking, like, I love Slayer, but I was like, I'm going Sunday to CB's or some shit, but I regret it because I remember my boy Beto was like, Beto for 25, he went there and he was like, you don't understand. They were throwing M80s. They blew up the MSG sign. And I
was backstage for that. That was right when I became friends with Dave Lombardo. And that show was amazing.
That's what I heard. Everybody was like, that was the talk. Like to this day, they're like, slay MSG.
But you know what? You want to talk about tours where we were talking earlier about with just pairings of bands that don't match up. I mean, Alice in Chains on that tour, they stuck out like the sorest of thumbs that could be. I mean, I went to 4 shows on that tour, and I fortunately knew who they were. Like a friend of mine had told me, he's like, oh no, this band Alice in Chains is great. You got to go buy this album Facelift. So I had Facelift maybe a month before that tour started. So I was like one of the few that was like, yeah, I want to see this band.
Yeah.
But I saw them get shit thrown at them 4 nights in a row. And I was like, what's wrong with these people? I mean, I was there to see the Clash of the Titans, but I was like, and Scotty Ian talks about it. He's like, yeah, and then a year later, they were bigger than all of us.
Yeah. Ain't that crazy? You always hear, these guys got booed off the stage. And then the next thing you know, they're killing it, right? It's bugged out how that happens. I heard about that a lot, like especially with that, like on that tour. I was saying like those Alice in Chains came out, they were like catching it. It's like that's rough, but it's great. It's just great how the music and you just brought up the Extreme Music Awards. This is a good thing that I was happy with Mike that Mike got a lot of the people in the area. A lot of people got on board with it because you know how it is. A lot of people could try to set out to do something, but you need the community involved. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's very important. And it was good. And it's good. Listen, especially guys like you and other guys that were not only there from early days of like, again, playing in the trench bands and also doing other things, but still bringing it back home. You know what I mean? That's very important. A lot of people forget that shit. It's like that. I told Mike this. When you know how it is with shows nowadays. We played so many. We go to a show, we're already counting our minutes to leave. I saw the footage of last year's, and I remember saying, "Fuck, man, I wish I was there," because everybody presenting, everybody looked like they were having too much fun, and I was hating a little bit. I was hating like, these motherfuckers shouldn't be smiling that much. Can't be that happy. And then I'm looking like afterwards, it's close, but they're still there and people lingering around. And then the next day, and then, my boys, everybody. I was like, but what a great thing. And I'm glad it was good. And then I seen what was good with you. I seen you holding the torch hard with that shit. I told Mike that I was like, I wasn't sure, how was it brought up to you? Because I see you flying the flag for it hard. And that's dope. Is what I'm saying. It's a good thing.
Last year when Mike approached me, he called me and he said, "Hey, what are you doing in January?" And I'm like, usually nothing because it's January and usually we're home. I mean, we do the Bubba Bash every year, the Neil Peart tribute, but I said aside from that, nothing because I wasn't I don't really think that NAMM really exists anymore in California. Yeah. So I'm like, I know I'm not going to the NAMM show, so I'll probably be home. He goes, well, we're going to do this award show. And he goes, and I want you to be a presenter and be a part of this. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And at the time he told me he had been talking to Blitz. He goes, Blitz is going to come up too. I said, all right, cool. No problem. So as this started moving forward, he asked me, hey, can you get some more people involved, any other musicians or something? So I started talking to people, and then it just happened to turn out that Category 7 was going to be in New York City shooting videos they were shooting all our music videos for the album the week before the Extreme Awards last year. So I knew I was going to have Phil and Jack on the East Coast like a couple days before this. And I've done like the Dime Bashes and the parties at NAMM before with Phil. And he does his jam thing at his bar every year. So he's familiar with that whole cover thing, plus the Metal Allegiance thing. So I asked him and Jack if they wanted to stay. And you know, because I told Mike, I said, well, maybe I should put a band together and we should have some people play. I mean, if we have all these people, because at that point too, we thought Gary was coming in too before the snow came. So as we started getting a few name players coming in, I'm like, well, kind of be of a shame if we have all these people here and we don't play.
Yeah, right.
So that's how that all came together. So it had, you know, what we ended up doing was taking the people that were going to be there last year, plus some of our local friends and guys that I've played in bands with in the local area over the years. And we did like, you know, 9 songs last year. This year we're doing 22. This is going to be this is a show this time. Just an opening thing, but it's really cool, especially with the way that the players come in and the way the songs rotate in and out, because it's not like, all right, we're just going to play 45 minutes of hardcore.
Yeah,
we're just going to play all the thrash songs right now, or here's the rock songs. It goes in and out, in and out, in and out with known guys and with the not so known guys too.
Future known guys.
Exactly. Or guys who are known in our area, people that are lifers and people that belong on that stage just as much as the guys who are in the touring bands.
Yeah, no, that's definitely Mikey. That was the good thing that what you did, like that you showcase, obviously you showcase the new bands as much as you showcase all the name guys playing, which is important because I noticed that it ain't just, it's dope. We got all the names. You need the names to be like, oh shit, look who they got.
Yeah.
Well, all right, you know that, but it's also you're not just I'm basing the whole award show, which it shouldn't be, over those guys, because it's also on the people in the trenches, the future big dogs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's good because, like Mike specifically, when we talked about doing a bunch of these podcasts, he brought up a lot of these bands. He's like, there's certain bands I want to push, and I could tell from how he builds the bills. You know what I mean? Like, you know, making sure that the city, the neighborhood, the area gets represented well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Mike, you know that fucking these big agents come, they'll wipe off your bill. There'll be no locals. You know, an agency will come in, they won't give a fuck. And it kind of sucks because, you know, the way we came up, that gave us a chance. Exactly. What would be
that's how we built the scene, was friends helping out friends and bands helping other bands out. Yeah. That's the only way that the grassroots thing built.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Whenever I get a national that comes across my table, I always advocate for a local opener. I said, come on, you only got 2 bands on this show. Let me no, we don't need one. I'm like, I know you don't need one. I said, but I need a show to reward these bands that are actually worth a squirt of piss. It's like, let's fucking, you know, give them a break. And I'd say 75% of the time the agents give in and let me put somebody on there.
But that's dope. Even you people don't know that he's fighting behind the scenes to do that. You know what I mean?
Like, I mean, because nobody did that for me. Nobody did that for Jason. You know,
you know how that is. And there's something that you don't go around telling people. You know, Mike doesn't go around saying, you know what I do for bands. No, you try to do that, but people don't get that. But that's very important because people just think like, I got on a show, when it's not that easy all the time. Sometimes it's like you had somebody kind of pushing for you, you know, also wasn't as strict with the bigger bands on the bill and giving the lower tier some leeway, because some people want control of the whole bill. You know.
And the thing is too, on some of my shows, I put some bands on that are very inexperienced and maybe not as well rehearsed as the next band, but I see potential in them, and they're young and they're hungry. And, you know, and I've had people come up to me, like, why'd you put this band on this bill? I go, cause they need that push in order to make them want to mold into something. I said, you give this band a year and check back with them. And there's been like 4 or 5 bands that I did that to, and they're definitely some of the bigger local bands now.
Yo, Jason, Mikey's like the Mickey for these new bands, like Rocky's Mickey. He'll do it for the Mikey.
Not only that, but there was something I wanted to piggyback on that we were talking about, that I was going to say what Mike's name used to be back in 1988. Mike's real name used to be Mike. You want to buy a ticket? Hey, what's your name, Mike? Want to buy a ticket?
Yeah.
And then they'd come out of his pocket, because
still is.
But he was the best. He was the best hustler, and that's also why his band Attica had the most people at their shows, which is also why that used to piss me the fuck off.
Yeah, no, great. I even told him, I remember the name. I know, hearing the name, because I had friends. You start hearing people from areas. You start hearing, especially when it was on the metal side. Again, you remember the East. Everything seemed to be California, and then if something was popping on the East Coast, you knew who it was. Because I remember originally with Overkill, they were like, finally, we got somebody. I remember all my boys were like, finally, East Coast is on the map. Like, we got something like, they got their Metallica, we got them. And then everybody waited. Not till the later bands. So all you guys with the later bands really put fucking, the metalcore really invaded metal.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole Western Mass thing too. Yeah. I mean, between Shadows Fall, Kill Switch, All That Remains, Unearthed. I mean, that's four pretty big bands through the early 2000s that out of a fucking 90 mile radius, which is really funny, because we used to talk about this all the time, because I've been Mike, you know where I live, because I've lived here since I've known you. In this house since I've known you. I've never moved anywhere else. When I was in Stigmata, I'm from Troy, even though I'm still right here in Schenectady where I live, but I'm from Troy. Anytime I'm in Shadows Fall, I must be from Massachusetts. When I was in Overkill, I was from Jersey.
Jersey, yeah.
But what's funny with Shadows Fall though is everybody thinks that we were from Boston. There was nobody from Boston in that band. The only person that was near Boston was Brian. The band is Western Massachusetts. I mean, really, if you wanted to call it, what would be like the city to pick for where they'd be from would be Springfield, really.
Yes.
So Western Mass with the three guys, but there was one day that Brian and I were joking around, because he had like a 90-minute drive from where he was down near Boston to come to practice. I had a 90-minute drive from Albany to get to practice. So I'm like, just for shits and giggles, do your odometer today on the way back home and see how many miles it is. Both of us had a 96-mile drive to where the other 3 guys were, and we laughed about that for like probably a month straight.
And that's crazy. You just named those 4 bands that were basically a lot of the game changers at that time. You know, at that. And let me tell you a little connection that I have to a couple of you motherfuckers. So the early Unearthed van, we bought it early on. So when we were recording, and we got Zeus, obviously Zeus is a connection to everybody. And then, so I'm recording one of my first records with Zeus, and I'm having problems with my bass, right? I'm like, fuck, if something's happening, it's just some shitty sound or whatever. And we're having, like, what could we do? Well, Zeus is calling some people up and whatever. He's like, wait a minute. He goes behind the soundboard and he goes, this is Paul's. And he pulls out a bass. Check this out. A Fender. It was like maybe a Mexican Fender. It didn't have no strings on it. He goes, this is Paul's. Why don't we just fucking string it up? I said, fuck it, string the shit up. But it had custom pickups from a local spot. I ended up using that on that album. The bass bumped. I was like, yo, what the fuck? He literally pulled it out behind the soundboard, had no thing. He left this here. I was like crazy. And I was
what's funny about that you mentioned Paul's bass too? So I told you we got that new song comes out Friday. We did a video for it last month. In the video, we all get drenched. We did it in a fucking rain room. So we had to use gear that could get wet. And he's like, not getting my $3,000 P base fucking wet.
Yeah.
So he goes online and he buys a Mexican Squire P base for like $129. Gets it, uses it in the video, towels it off, no big deal. Goes back home next week. He comes to practice. He's like, so I pulled that Mexican Squire out of my house and I was just fucking around with it, going through some of those songs for the Extreme Awards. And I go, and let me guess, it's not any different than the $3,000 guitar. He goes, not really. I went,
yeah. Let me tell, like once in a while there's a difference, but let me tell you, I got a friend of mine found a Mexican one on the road. Just he said, yo, I use it as a second backup. He got it for like something like that, $160.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was not, it ain't like a real high, but I was like, it bumps. And I was like, wait a minute. I played some good ones that don't sound as good either. You know, you get lucky sometimes, but it's crazy. But I wanted to ask both you guys how you went about picking the cover songs that you guys are that everybody's gonna jam to.
That's all Jason right there.
You had him mastermind. So yeah, you're the mad scientist on that.
I am definitely the Paul Schaefer of the Extreme Music Awards. I'm the musical director.
For everybody out there, hold on. Paul Schaefer was an ill motherfucker. Everybody out there, a lot of these kids don't know who Paul Schaefer was.
Exactly, but we're old enough so we get the reference.
Oh yeah, the man.
I'm like, all right, hold on. I'm like the Roots of the Extreme Awards.
That's the new version of what Paul. Yeah,
musical
basically a band leader who can fucking play everything.
I'm Questlove for that.
You're the negative Questlove.
It gets based on songs that everybody knows. Good hard rock songs, good hardcore songs, good metal songs, good thrash songs, but it also goes on who's gonna be there too.
Yeah.
Like last year, we did it more so with the cover thing. The only reason why we did the 2 Overkill songs, even though it was me and Blitz there, we did it too because Phil was there and Phil had filled in with the band, and we're like, yeah, it makes sense to do that. And that way I got 2 extra songs out of Blitz too, because I told him at first, he goes, how many songs I gotta do? I go, just, the Priest song and the Motorhead song. All right, that's cool. And then
two more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know why Overkill was perfect? That's New York, New Jersey. You know what I mean? Like you need that. Right. I mean, if anybody that's
Clean, so for this year, without giving it all away. Because we'll talk more about that in the future as we get closer to the Extreme Awards. But with this one, it starts out with some just typical good old fashioned rock and roll songs up the AC/DC, Guns N' Roses type of alley, with some great local players and some of the local all-stars. And then we head over into some of the hardcore songs that what's going on there because you're playing one of them.
Yeah, and like I told everybody when we were talking about songs, I said, yo, you could put me in for the easy ones. Don't give me no Rush songs. I told them.
You said no Rush and no Jocko. And I was going to make a fake set.
I got this Jocko song I want you to do.
I was going to make a fake set list with like YYZ and a bass Hoya.
Yeah, like that. I'm like, can I play that with these two fingers?
The first side of the Weather Report, Black Market, Hoya. Right.
If I could play with these 2 fingers, I'm in. All right? So you sign me the fuck up. And I was laughing. No, but it was great. Mikey, what were some of the cool covers that you heard? Because as much as you are, the promoter, you played also. You are a super fan of the music. I always say that, and I love it because I'm like that too on the quieter side. But I'm a fan like that still. Like I'm looking at everything, the equipment, who's coming out, what they're playing, how they're playing. Let me see the equipment, old, new. What was that? And I also like the mix, the bizarro, the Salvador Dali of watching different band members playing together, I love that. Shit. Like, what were highlights for you from the last one?
Well, of course, I get to jam 2 Overkill songs with Blitz and Bit.
and you're the
Yeah,
pimp.
I just that was full circle for me because I first saw Overkill in 1985 opening up for Slayer at Lost Horizon in Syracuse, and I liked Overkill better than Slayer at the time, and I was all over Overkill for years, so much to where I scammed Bobby Blitz out of his phone number. I used to call him all the time and just bother him. But yeah, it was just like I said, it was full circle. So just seeing Blitz in that capacity and playing with him, yeah, that was listen, that was a fanboy.
I hate it. I know you mean it's bugged out. Like when you find yourself up there, like jamming out, looking next to you, like it's bugged out.
And just the fact that Bittner realized I still got my wrist.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely.
And what songs did you jam on the last one?
We did I did Elimination and Wrecking Crew.
Wrecking Crew, right?
Oh, okay.
And, you could
obviously, Jason, you played both of those, right? You did,
you
just did those.
And then just watching, and sitting back and watching the band Uncle Sam. They're like the house cover band, and they do the Sam SAMM. So Slayer, Anthrax,
yeah.
Oh, do all those covers, and watching them jam, a Slayer song with the drummer from Hatebreed.
Yeah.
And it was just watching like the local guys. It was just, it felt good for me. And then Nick Stamos, who's one of the local kids up in our area, he jams with Bittner all the time. Just that kid owns the guitar on that stage.
He's my little guitar playing protege buddy up here. Yeah. He's the go-to guy that I can land for to learn the whole set, regardless of whether or not he's playing all those songs. Because with all the amount of songs that we have and all the different players, if something happens, God forbid, there's snow or something, and so's car doesn't make it, I go, "Oh, Nick, you need to play those 5 songs." Okay, I know them. All right, great.
Yep.
But
it was great.
We're gonna be doing stuff by the some of the bands. Obviously, we're gonna play some Megadeth stuff with Ellefson there. Gary's gonna come up for some of the classic metal stuff. We'll probably float a Flotsam song in there, considering the fact that AK is going to be there and Billy's there and I was in the band, so that's 3 guys. So that's counts.
Crazy. How about how that must have been finding yourself at Flotsam and Jetsam, because that's definitely a little bugged out of all of them, right?
I love that band. I loved everything about that band. I love those guys. They're still my great friends to this day, which is why AK was my first choice for when I needed the pipe singer. I'm like, all right, let's go because we got Joe to cover all the other range stuff, and AK covers the highs, and we're gonna have some surprises that night too. We might have there's definitely a band with the initials SF that might get up there and play at some point. So
there you go. And isn't it your birthday coming or something?
Yeah.
You can't leave that out. We want people to come with gifts, maybe. He
my
likes
20th. It's my
marijuana
20th anniversary.
And German chocolate cake. Oh no, wait a minute, that's me. But he likes that too.
It's my 20th anniversary of being 35.
Oh yeah, I like that. So,
but you know what's funny though? It is my birthday, but it's actually also Billy Bodley from Flotsam's. It's his birthday too. He's only turning 50, but there actually is 2 of us that night.
We got to get cake. There's going to be a lot of cake that day.
Mike and I, our last promo, we just started making a joke. We're just saying it's everybody's birthday. Everybody I introduced is going to be like, it's their birthday tonight too. So
and more important, it's the Extreme Music Awards show's 2nd birthday.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, again, congratulations. I want to say that I'm a big not because Mikey's my brother, but I'm a big fan because again, I know you guys must have talked about it in years in the past. Yo, why don't we have? There's not an East Coast version or a little bit more grounded version of like the Golden Gods. Those are dope. The English, but
no shit.
But another one that also maybe gets a little more grimier.
I ironically have one of those in my shelf inside the house.
And even more with that being said, when half those guys were guys like you, or listen to guys like AF and the Cro-Mags that made them, that's like, it's rock and roll history. So, they should always be a category. Look, I'm not a Ramones guy. They deserve, they supposed to be there. I'm not a Bad Brains guy. They're supposed to be there, because the same way the Cro-Mags, AF influenced the Slayers and the Metallicas. There's a reason, they were looking for what's the gritty shit, what's that dirty shit, and what they gave us was, wow. Now what I loved about metal the most, besides, I was like, when all the metal guys were turning hardcore, now we could come up with full stacks and nobody will say nothing. Cro-Mags, I was like, yeah, motherfucker. Now nobody, double bass. We had discussions about double bass 20 years ago,
Let me tell you a funny story regarding the Cro-Mags and up and coming metal bands. So,
oh boy,
way back in 1990, it was the end of 94 going into 95, and Chris Contos had just quit Machine Head, and I knew they were looking for a drummer. I got word Melissa had actually told me from Winners.
Yeah.
Gave me an inside scoop to the management. Call this person, blah 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 blah. So I called this person up. They're like, learn Burn My Eyes front to back, and we're going to be auditioning in January next year. All right. So I go home. This is how fucked up this story is, because I didn't even, like, the players in the story, 30 years later, it's funny how things rolled out. So this was like maybe October or so of 1994, October, November. So I know that this audition is going to be in January of 95, but it's somewhere in the meantime, Machine Head rolls through our local club with a fill-in drummer playing drums. Ironically, the fill-in drummer at the time was Will Carroll from Death Angel, which, at that time, he was just some guy filling in, playing, and I noticed he had played his ride cymbal on his left side. So I thought that was funny. So I end up backstage walking around, and I end up running into Rob Flynn, and I'm talking to him, and I said, well, you got a drummer right here. I said, I was told that you guys were going to be looking for a drummer. No, he's just doing a tour. He's not going to be in the band. Which I still have never asked Will why he never decided to stay in Machine Head, but whatever. So I go, all right, so you're still going to audition? And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, I wanted to give you a CD of my band just so you can just check it out. I'll jump through the hoops, do the management thing in January, whatever. But in the meantime, if you want to check out my band. So I gave him the Stigmata CD, and he looks at it and he goes, produced by Harley Flanagan. And he looks at me, he goes, Harley Flanagan from the Cro-Mags? And I go, yeah. He produced your record? Yeah, we're really good friends with him.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh yeah, I know he loves Rob loves them.
So that won me points already.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No,
and he sings on the last song too. So
no, for sure. It's crazy. It's crazy how it is. Same thing. They used to do Hard Times, and they used to get Matty Henderson up there to play guitar. They would get, it was cool, hey, especially then, when Machine Head was peaking, it was like, that was almost like, yo, what is this? Are we seeing a Metallica coming up? Because they were starting, we were watching it happen. And then I remember they were like, they would do their hardcore covers. I was like, yo, that's pretty dope. It's giving some shine. And they would bring guys up there to play. Like Fear Factory would do that early on. Also, they would cover some AF tunes and shit. And they would bring Vinny up and stuff. It's cool shit. So, but dope, man. And Mikey, I can't wait to see you guys in about a month. I'm gonna see you guys, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, and, definitely. You want to let people know what's going on with the band before we out of here? I know you finishing up stuff with Brick by Brick and also the club, but give people a little rundown quick.
We're in the studio, and whenever this airs, today's what the second. Ray's studio today, finishing up vocals. Then we start mixing. So the goal is to have this out in the springtime. But in the meantime, we're playing the pre-party. Right. January 10th, you got Smoke AD, you got Concrete, you got Dysentery, you got Brick by Brick, you got Hope for Now, Faded Line, and Against the Rain. So sounds like a lot of bands, but it's going to be a common back line, and we're just going to, we're going to wing it. It's going to be
a party.
It'll be fun.
The whole weekend's a party too. Jason, what's up with you? Obviously, the new album. Let everybody know because you got a lot of stuff going. But let them know that
Category 7
shit.
record is out, and Shadows Fall new single comes out on Friday.
I want to check both.
Big show.
I haven't heard the
big show at the Worcester Palladium on the 21st with Brick by Brick.
Yeah, wink, wink. I seen that. To be honest with you, I haven't heard the category stuff yet. I want to hear it, but I want to also hear the new Shadows Fall stuff because, again, I know you guys were working on some stuff. So I always like seeing where people left off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always curious. Or like, is it okay? We're tasting some recipe. Or we're tasting something new. You know what I mean? I'm always curious of what people going, if it's
to be honest with you, the first song that we're releasing out of the ones that we had done, this is not the first song that I had thought in a million years would be the one that we would release first.
Well, that's dope.
It just isn't like the way it started musically. It was like, it's chaotic. It's fast. I mean, it's a little out of the box for us, but like once the vocals came in on it and like just everything, it just like kind of just fucking came together. And like all of us are like, this song's fucking great. Like,
hell yeah. No, that's what I mean. That's dope when you go again, get in a room with guys that you already know how to start fire, but now you're making the fire gets hotter because you guys are just like, even it's the same recipe with something else. Again, we live longer, no matter music. It's like liquor, age affects the music,
right?
You know what I mean?
And this is what we're gonna leave behind too. That's the way I look at it. I mean, every time I make a record, this is part of the musical DNA that I'm leaving behind for the future. Whether or not people like that or not, it's gonna be here.
Look at fuck the Smithsonian. You want to go to the fucking Extreme Music Hardcore fucking Awards, Extreme Music Award Show, Albany, New York. Everybody get the tickets. Listen, on the real, Jason, it's always good to see you. It's been a while, and we're going to party in a couple of weeks.
We are, my friend.
You know the deal. Mikey, you already know the deal. Keep doing what you're doing, and everybody go get that stuff. Make sure to get tickets. Follow all the bands. This is going to be up next week. Everybody keep supporting the movement. We out of here. Hang on, guys, when we sign off, all right? Yo, we out of here. Peace, party people. Peace.